Happy Friday! It's good to be with you wherever you are. If you're watching this, that means you probably either just finished or are about to finish the first week of our Matthew Bible reading plan. And we couldn't be more excited for you to be reading this story with us all summer long, because we truly believe that by digging in and learning more about who Jesus is and what his life was all about, that it's going to transform your life in the process. Now, my name is Johnston. I'm the Director of Content here at HBUMC, and all I want to do over the next few minutes is introduce you to a piece of Matthew's story and what he's trying to do overall as he recounts the story of Jesus' life. Because Matthew's not neutral. He's writing with a purpose, and he's not writing a history book. He's not giving us just mere facts about Jesus' life and his ministry. He's intentionally structured his book in a way, every word that he writes, he's doing so with purpose. And that purpose is to show that Jesus is the one who was promised to come all throughout the Old Testament. He's the long-awaited, the prophesied Messiah that the Jews had been waiting for hundreds and thousands of years. And Matthew does this in two really cool ways. First, the way he structures his gospel as a whole. Now, there's an introductory section, which you're right in the middle of, chapters 1 through 3. But then as you get into the meat of the story, what you'll notice is a pattern. So there'll be a block of teaching about Jesus' life, like what he's doing every single day or something about his ministry. And then Matthew will transition into a period, a block of either one chapter or several chapters, where you'll notice a whole lot more red letters, the teachings of Jesus. So Matthew pairs a section about Jesus' life with a section about the teachings of Jesus. And he does that 5 times in a row. Can you think of a reason why 5 blocks of teaching or instruction might be significant to the primary Jewish audience that Matthew is writing to? Yeah, it's replacing the Torah. It's fulfilling the Torah. The first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, were traditionally referred to as the Torah, the instruction. It was the law of the Israelites, and it was traditionally ascribed to Moses, at least as being the one who birthed forth this law, not necessarily the one who wrote it down. And so by structuring his gospel in these 5 distinct blocks, if you will, Matthew is painting Jesus as the one who comes to give God's people a new instruction, a new Torah, a new way of living in God's kingdom. And here's the second piece. As I mentioned, the Torah was traditionally connected with Moses. They were often called, these first 5 books, the book of Moses, the law of Moses. And so in the first 2 chapters, you may have noticed some striking similarities between Jesus' story of his birth and how he came about to the story of Moses and his birth and how he came about. Now, some of you may know we just finished reading through the book of Exodus together. So I hope that you're seeing some of these patterns as you encounter them. Let's just walk through a few of them. Moses' birth came during a period in Israel's history when they were ruled by the Egyptians, non-Israelites. We call that Gentiles. Jesus' birth came at a time when they were also ruled by Gentiles, the Romans in this case. And in both cases, there was a mad king who, desperate not to lose his power, goes about slaughtering a group of innocent babies. For Moses, we're talking about Pharaoh. Remember, Pharaoh gets afraid of how numerous the Israelites are growing, and he tries to destroy them by having all of the babies thrown into the Nile. The male babies, they're thrown into the Nile. And Moses' parents are forced to put him in the waters and hide him away from this king to rescue him, to save his life. Now, fast forward to Jesus, we have another king, Herod, who's bent on keeping his power. This time he's afraid of a prophecy of one who's going to come to be king of the Jews. And so Jesus' parents now are forced to hide him away in Egypt to keep him from dying, to keep him from being killed by this angry king. So Jesus is hidden away in Egypt, just like Moses is hidden away in Egypt. Now, I want to fast forward and give you some hints of things to come in the next few chapters, because these similarities, these parallels, they don't stop here. They keep going. So just as the Israelites, when they're fleeing Egypt, God has rescued them out of Egypt and he's bringing them into the wilderness. At one point, they're forced to cross through the waters of the Red Sea, the Reed Sea. So remember, it's a famous story. The waters are parted and the Israelites pass through with Moses as the leader. Now, can you think of a time when Jesus too is going to have to pass through the waters on his way to the wilderness? Well, if you don't know that story, you're going to read about it next week in chapter 3. It's his baptism story. Right after Jesus crosses through the waters of baptism, he's going to go into the wilderness. And there he's going to be tempted 3 times by the devil, is what we're told. Now, the Israelites, when they cross through the seas, they too are tempted for 40 years in the wilderness. And as you'll see, Jesus spends 40 days in the wilderness. Now, I don't want to give away too much of what's to come, but check back next week on our website and we'll have a guide that goes more in depth for some of the parallels that are to come, because again, they don't stop here. And why are we talking about this to begin with? Why does any of this matter? Why is Matthew comparing Jesus' story with the story of Moses? What could he possibly have to do that? What motivation? Here's what this is about. Just as Moses was the one through whom God worked to rescue his people in a mighty way, to save his people and bring them into a place where he can teach them how to live in his kingdom and what it means to worship God. That's what the second half of Exodus was all about. So now here Jesus is coming into the world to rescue God's people once and for all, to bring them out of bondage and into a place where he is going to give the people a new teaching. Remember, a new instruction about what it means to live in God's kingdom. And all of Jesus's life is about revealing what that looks like. And where the Israelites constantly failed to be the faithful people of God that God was always calling them to be, even Moses failed. Jesus is not going to fail. He's going to pass every test, and he's going to be the faithful Israelite that the Israelites couldn't be themselves, that you and I can't be ourselves. So as you think about your life, and as you read this story, number one, look for these parallels of how the story of the Old Testament and the history of the Israelites is being relived in the story of Jesus. And remember, the whole point that Matthew is trying to get across with this is that we too have been rescued from slavery. Jesus is a new creation. He's a new Exodus story. And through Jesus, God is bringing his people out of bondage to rescue them once and for all. And as you read through Matthew's story, Jesus is going to teach us what it looks like to live in God's kingdom so that we can follow his example to be faithful to what God is calling us to be. So I hope you're enjoying Matthew so far. Again, go to hpmc.org/Bible. You can find more resources to help you dig into the reading. And by next week, we'll have a guide that you can look at to see some of these parallels. But I just want to challenge you as you read this week and over the next couple of weeks to be looking for the ways that Jesus is reliving the story of the Israelites. And I hope it gives you a new sense of exploration and adventure as you read the scriptures. These are not just history books. It's all one story and it points to Jesus. So may you enjoy reading about him this summer. And we look forward to doing this journey with you.